Hey everyone, today I'm going to show you how to replace the rear sway bar on a Honda S2000. The first thing you want to do is jack up the car and get the car on jack stands. Then remove the rear wheels. The next thing you want to do is generate some clearance so that you can access the rear sway bar brackets. If you have an OEM exhaust, you will need to remove the hangers from both the rear mufflers. If you have an aftermarket exhaust, you may need to do something similar. Use a jack to support the mufflers and remove tension from the hangers. Then you can spray some silicone lubricant on the hangers and you should be able to pull them off like butter. Removing the hangers should allow the rear mufflers to droop down quite a bit. Now you'll want to remove the sway bar end links from the sway bar. These sway bar end links have a tendency to corrode, so I advise soaking the end links with PB Blaster. Once you're ready to loosen them, attach a 14mm wrench to the nut and then insert a 5mm Allen key into the end link. Use the 5mm Allen key to hold the stud in place while using the wrench to actually loosen the nut. You may need to use a rubber mallet to initially break the nut loose. If you have an impact gun, you may also be able to use that to blast the nuts off. Once the nut is removed, pull the end link stud out from the sway bar. The last thing holding the sway bar in place is the brackets. Use a 14mm socket to remove the two bolts securing each bracket to the frame of the car. Make sure you support the sway bar as you remove the last couple bolts, as the sway bar will want to fall to the ground. Your sway bar is probably going to end up resting on your exhaust. Try to remove the sway bar from underneath the car. It will feel a bit like you're playing Tetris, but with some careful maneuvering, it will make its way out of one side of the car. With the sway bar removed, you can now transfer any bushings or brackets over to the new sway bar. This particular sway bar comes with new bushings and brackets, so I didn't reuse the original bushings or brackets. This would also be a good time to apply some grease to the bushings in the event that you're installing polyurethane bushings. It's time to install the new sway bar. Insert the sway bar into position from one side of the car and maneuver it into place. Then lift up each side until you can insert the sway bar end link through the end of each side of the sway bar. Thread a nut onto each end link, but don't tighten it down just yet. Use a 14mm socket to install the two bolts securing each bracket to the frame of the car. This can be particularly challenging when you're using brand new bushings, so I recommend trying to thread the upper bolt first. You just want to make sure that you don't cross thread these bolts. Torque the bolts to 40 foot-pounds. Now you can go back to the sway bar end links. Attach a 14mm wrench to the nut and then insert a 5mm Allen key into the end link. Use the 5mm Allen key to hold the stud in place while using the wrench to actually tighten the nut. You're supposed to torque these nuts to 32 foot-pounds, but that is challenging since you can't really use a torque wrench here, so just make sure that they are good and tight. With the sway bar in place, you can reinstall the muffler hangers. Use a jack to raise and support the mufflers. Then you can spray some silicone lubricant onto the hangers and you should be able to install the hangers like butter. Reinstall the rear wheels and lower the car back down to the ground. If you found this video helpful, make sure to hit that subscribe button and leave a comment down below for any DIY you'd like to see in the future.